Hi, and welcome to another episode of Historical Markers. In this particular episode, we are beginning to look at Crest Road, which runs along Missionary Ridge over Chattanooga. There are a lot of markers along this road, and so this is just the first episode of several. So stay tuned, and let's start at the south end of Crest Road and work our way north. Here we're at the very south edge of Crest Road. We're going to be doing a lot on Crest Road, and this marker is for Missouri to her 3rd, 12th, 17th, 27th, 29th, 31st, and 32nd Infantry and Battery F. 2nd Missouri, USA, who occupied a position near this point in November 25th of 1868. And then here we have a couple of cannons, and we will see Crest Road was a very popular place as we continue along on this road. Osterhause's Division, Blair's Corps, Brigadier General Peter J. Osterhouse, November 25th, 1863 at 3 p.m. 1st Brigade, Brigadier General Charles R. Woods, and 2nd Brigade, Colonel James A. Williamson. This division, being the head of General Hooker's column, reached Rossville from Lookout Mountain at 3 p.m. November 25th. It pushed through the gap, which was defended by a small force of infantry and artillery, and turned northward up on the road running parallel to and about 1,000 yards east of Missionary Ridge. After marching nearly a mile, the command formed in echelons of brigades, the 2nd Brigade on the left and the 1st Brigade on the right. They moved obliquely up the slope of Missionary Ridge and carried the crest. The command bivouacked on the eastern slope of the ridge in the vicinity of Bragg's headquarters, the enemy's line against which it had been operating in cooperation of Cruft's and Geary's divisions was held by the division of Major General Stewart. Next we have the 40th Ohio Infantry, Whitaker's Brigade, Cruft's Division, 4th Corps, Colonel Jacob E. Taylor, November 25th, 1863. The regiment participated with its brigade in the assault on Lookout Mountain, November 24th, advanced to Rossville Gap, the 25th, and in connection with Grose's brigade of Cruft's division, assaulted the south end of Missionary Ridge. It reached the summit at this point about 5 p.m., participating in turning the left flank of the Confederate line and forcing it from its position on the ridge. The line pushed northward along the summit to a junction with the troops that had carried the ridge at the center. The regiment took part on the 26th in the pursuit of Ringgold. Strength in action, 16 officers, 333 men. It looks like there were some numbers of casualties and killed. 1 officer and 11 men wounded. 1 officer, 15 men missing, and 2 men. Here's the 24th Ohio Infantry, Grose's Brigade, Cruft's Division, 4th Corps, Captain George M. Bacon, November 25th, 1863. The regiment participated with its brigade in the assault on Lookout Mountain, November 24th, advanced to Rossville Gap, the 25th, and in connection with Grose's brigade of Cruft's division, assaulted the south end of Missionary Ridge. It reached the summit at this point about 5 p.m., participating in turning to the left flank of the Confederate line and forcing it from its position on the ridge. The line pushed northward along the summit to a junction with the troops that had carried the ridge at the center. The regiment took part in the 26th in the pursuit of Ringgold. Strength in action, 12 officers, 98 men casualties, wounded 4 men. Here's the 99th Ohio Infantry, Whitaker's Brigade, Cruft's Division, 4th Corps. Lieutenant Colonel John E. Cummins, November 25th, 1863. The regiment participated with its brigade in the assault on Lookout Mountain, November 24th, advanced to Rossville Gap, the 25th, and in connection with Grose's brigade of Cruft's division, assaulted the south end of Missionary Ridge. It reached the summit at this point about 5 p.m., participating in turning the left flank of the Confederate line and forcing it from its position on the ridge. The line pushed northward along the summit to a junction with the troops that had carried the ridge at the center. The regiment took part in the 26th on the pursuit to Ringgold. Strength in action, 23 officers, 241 men, casualties, killed 3 men, wounded, looks like 1 officer and 12 men. Next we have Grose's Brigade, Cruft's Division, Granger's Corps. You can see all of the different Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio regiments there. The brigade left Lookout Mountain with Hooker's column about 10 o'clock a.m., reaching Rossville about 4 p.m., having been delayed by the destruction of a bridge over Chattanooga Creek. It followed Osterhouse's division into the gap, went opposite the point of Missionary Ridge on its left, and was ordered to carry that position. The brigade advanced at 4 o'clock, the 9th Indiana leading, supported by the 59th Illinois on the left. After the center had reached the summit, 2 regiments of Whitaker's brigade went forward on the left of the 2D and 3D lines on the slope. And you can read the rest of this. The Illinois and Indiana formed the 2nd line, Illinois and Ohio the 3rd, and thus formed with Geary's division moving along the western and Osterhouse's along the eastern base. And then they advanced to within a half mile of the point where the Wright and Johnson's division of the assaulting lines of the center had reached the summit and bivouacked for the night. 51st Ohio Infantry, Whitaker's Brigade, Cruft's Division, 4th Corps, Lieutenant Colonel Charles H. Wood, November 25, 1863. The regiment participated with its brigade in the assault on Lookout Mountain, November 24th, advanced to Rossville Gap, the 25th, and in connection with Grose's Brigade of Cruft's Division, assaulted the south end of Missionary Ridge. It reached the summit at this point about 5 p.m., participating in turning the left flank of the Confederate line and forcing it from its position on the ridge. The line pushed northward along the summit to a junction with the troops that had carried the ridge at the center. The regiment took part on the 25th and in pursuit to Ringgold. Strength in action, 14 officers, 180 men, casualties, killed 1 man, and wounded was 6 men. Here's Cruft's Division, Granger's Corps, Brigadier General Charles Cruft, November 25th, 1863 at 5 p.m. They had the 2nd Brigade and the 3rd Brigade. This division followed Osterhouse in the march of Hooker's column from Lookout Mountain, and at 4 p.m. had penetrated Rossville Gap until its center was on the prolongation of the enemy's line on the crest of Missionary Ridge. Here it formed, facing the flank of that line, Grose's Brigade in advance and Whitaker's in support, and moving forward met the enemy's skirmishes, advancing down the ridge. Soon after carried the summit. Advancing astride the crest, it reached this point about 5 p.m. and continued northward, arriving in the vicinity of the position carried by the 14th Corps and bivouacked for the night. Whitaker's Brigade, Cruft's Division, Granger's Corps, Brigadier General Walter C. Whitaker, November 25, 1863. You can see there were several from Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio. The brigade leaving the 8th Kentucky and 96th Illinois on the summit of Lookout Ridge position. They had been the first to occupy after the battle reached Rossville Gap at 4 p.m. with Hooker's column and supported Grose's Brigade in assaulting Missionary Ridge, and so forth and so on. They reached a point within about a half a mile of the position already reached by the assaulting force in the center, and here the fighting ceased and the brigade bivouacked. And here is a marker for Geary's division, right of assault. This happened on November 25th, 1863. And as we've been going on Ridge Road, if you can turn around, you can see we're on top of a ridge next to Chattanooga. Here we have Clayton's Brigade, Stewart's Division, Breckenridge Corps, Colonel J.T. Holtzclaw, November 25th, 1863. Looks like you had 5 divisions from Alabama. During the 24th Division held its earthworks reaching from the foot of Missionary Ridge near Fort Cheatham to Chattanooga Creek beyond Watkins Place. Stovall's brigade being next the ridge and Clayton's left of Stovall. At nightfall, Clayton was dispatched to relieve Walthal's and Pettis's line on Lookout Mountain, reaching their position at 3 p.m. and holding the line until withdrawn at 2 a.m. It then took position on Missionary Ridge, extending the left of Stalwart's line to the point overlooking Rossville Gap. Upon the advance of Hooker's column from Lookout toward the Gap, General Breckinridge took 2 regiments of the brigade and 2 guns into the Gap. The brigade line on the ridge was then greatly extended, being little more than a skirmish line. The regiments in the Gap were forced to the rear, and those left on the ridge being attacked on the flank by Cruft's division, on the front by Johnson's, and in the rear by Osterhouse's, which turned northward after penetrating the Gap, and it retreated toward Mission Hills. Casualties: killed 21, wounded 100, missing 706. Here's a little marker for Company F, 2nd Missouri Light Artillery, USA. And all of these are really in pretty close proximity to each other, and all overlooking Chattanooga. Here we have Creighton's Brigade, Geary Division, Slocum's Corps, Colonel William R. Creighton, November 25th, 1863. This is at 6 p.m. Looks like there were 4 Ohio regiments and 2 Pennsylvania regiments. This brigade, the 5th and 29th Ohio, being left west of Lookout, descended Lookout Mountain at 11 a.m. November 25th at the head of Geary's division, followed Osterhouse's to Rossville, and turned north along the west base of Missionary Ridge. Landgraber's 2nd Missouri battery of Osterhouse's division shelling the crest as the column advanced. At a point a half a mile south of where Johnson's division had just reached the crest, the brigade with the 28th and 147th Pennsylvania in the front line and 7th and 66th Ohio in the second assaulted obliquely, reaching the summit with little opposition to the left of Cruft's division. Here we have Geary's division, Slocum's Corps, Brigadier General John W. Geary, November 25th, 1863 at 6 p.m. We have the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Brigade, this division being in the rear of Hooker's column in the march from Lookout Mountain, reached Rossville about 4 p.m. and moved northward along the western base of Missionary Ridge. Creighton's brigade led, followed by Cobham's, both marching in column of regiments, and followed by Ireland's in support of 5 batteries of artillery. Near the base of the ridge, the division formed in column of brigades, Creighton's in the first line, Cobham's forming the second, and Ireland still supporting the artillery. With this formation, the division moved obliquely up the ridge until reaching a point opposite this tablet that faced fully towards the crest and scaled it about 6 p.m. So you can see how it overlooks the ridge here. Next we have Cobham's Brigade, Geary's Division, Slocum's Corps, Colonel George A. Cobham, Jr., November 25th, 1863 at 6 p.m. Had 3 divisions from Pennsylvania. This brigade, the 109th Pennsylvania, being left as camp guard west of Lookout, descended Lookout Mountain at 11 a.m. It reached Rossville about 4 p.m. and thence followed Creighton's brigade along the western base of Missionary Ridge. Knapp's Pennsylvania battery shelling the crest during the advance. The line advanced in the plain abreast of Cruft's division on the crest, that command having carried the south point of the ridge overlooking Rossville Gap and moved thence northward along the summit. Next we have the 66th Ohio Infantry, Candy's Brigade, Geary's Division, 12th Corps, Lieutenant Colonel Eugene Powell, Captain Thomas McConnell, November 25th, 1863. The regiment participated November 24th in the movement against Lookout Mountain, but was not engaged. It was in the movement against Missionary Ridge, November 25th, bivouacked at the base. It joined the pursuit to Ringgold and was sharply engaged with its brigade in the assault on Taylor's Ridge. Casualties: killed 1 officer, 4 men, and wounded were 10 men for a total of 15. Next we have Stovall's Brigade, Stewart's Division, Breckinridge's Corps, Brigadier General Marcellus A. Stovall, November 25th, 1863. Looks like there were 5 divisions from Georgia. During November 24th, this brigade held its position in Stewart's line of earthworks. It rested on the Rossville Road opposite Watkins Place, with Clayton's brigade on its right. During the night of the 24th, it moved with Adams, Gibson's, and Straw's brigade to Missionary Ridge, taking position on the left of Straw. Adams forming the right of the division, which rested at Bragg's headquarters. To cover the space assigned, the men were placed in one rank. The line much attenuated. Clayton's brigade occupied the line from the left of Stovall to the point overlooking Rossville Gap, a distance of 1.5 miles. This distance was further extended a half mile by Breckinridge, withdrawing 2 regiments and posting them in the gap. In the general assault upon the ridge in the afternoon of the 25th, the brigade was attacked on its front, left flank, and rear, and finally retreated with its division toward Mission Mills. Casualties: killed were 5, wounded 32, missing 47. Next we have the 7th Ohio Infantry, Candy's Brigade, Geary's Division, 12th Corps, Colonel William R. Creighton, Lieutenant Colonel Orrin J. Crane, Captain Ernst J. Krieger, November 25th, 1863. November 24th, the regiment took part in the storming of Lookout Mountain. During the engagement, Colonel Creighton commanded the brigade, Colonel Candy being disabled. November 25th, the regiment with its brigade participated in the assault on Missionary Ridge, reaching the summit about this point. November 27th, the regiment assaulted Taylor's Ridge at Ringgold. Lieutenant Colonel Crane, Colonel Creighton commanding the brigade, Adjutant Baxter, Lieutenants Crane and I.C. Jones were killed and 8 officers wounded, leaving only 1 uninjured. Strength in action: 14 officers, 206 men. Casualties: killed 5 officers, 13 men. Wounded 8 officers, 48 men, for a total of 74. Literally straight across the road from the last one, 76th Ohio Infantry, Woods Brigade, Osterhouse's Division, 15 Corps. Major Willard Warner, November 25th, 1863. November 24th, this regiment with its brigade participated in the storming of Lookout Mountain. The morning of the 25th, the brigade forced its way through Rossville Gap, marched northward east of Missionary Ridge for a mile, and was charged obliquely to the summit. Assisting in the capture of guns and many prisoners, the 76th reached the crest about this point. On the 27th, it was heavily engaged at Ringgold Gap. Casualties: killed 2 officers, 16 men. Wounded 3 officers, 40 men. Captured 2 men, total of 63. This is for the 29th Regiment, Pennsylvania Infantry. They reached this point at 6 p.m. for the Battle of Missionary Ridge, November 25th, 1863. And we have a small marker here for Geary's Division, left of assault, November 25th, 1863. Here's a marker for the 111th Regiment, Pennsylvania, Veteran Volunteer Infantry, Lieutenant Colonel Thomas M. Walker commanding, Cobham's 2nd Brigade, Geary's 2nd Division, Slocum's 12th Corps. The regiment occupied this position on the 25th day of November and in double column on center charged the summit, but the enemy had retreated and no loss occurred in the engagement. And here we have a large marker for New York, for the 60th New York Infantry, the 102nd New York Infantry, 137th New York Infantry, 149th New York Infantry, Ireland's 3rd Brigade, Geary's 2nd Division, Slocum's 12th Corps, Hooker's Command, the 11th and 12th Corps, Army of the Potomac, for November 25th, 1863. That's a big marker. Next, we have a small marker for Johnson's Division, right of assault, November 25th, 1863. And once again, we have a nice overlook of Chattanooga. The next marker is for the 2nd Ohio Infantry, Carlin's Brigade, Johnson's Division, 14th Corps, Colonel Anson G. McCook, November 25th, 1863. The 2nd, with its brigade, ascended Lookout the afternoon of November 24th, joined Hooker's forces, and participated in the close of the battle about 1 p.m. of the 25th. It joined its division in front of Missionary Ridge. It was the right regiment in the storming line of the Army of the Cumberland and reached the crest. About this point, moving to the right, it captured 250 prisoners, chiefly of the 38th Alabama. It took part in the pursuit to Ringgold. Casualties killed were 4 men, wounded 2 officers, and 10 men, for a total of 16. This marker is for the 38th Indiana Infantry, Lieutenant Colonel D.F. Griffin, November 25th, 1863. There were 7 wounded. This is just above Ringgold Road, still on Crest Road. This is the 33rd Ohio Infantry, Carlin's Brigade, Johnson's Division, 14th Corps, Captain J.H. M. Montgomery, November 25th, 1863. The 33rd, with its brigade, ascended Lookout the afternoon of November 24th, joined Hooker's forces, and participated in the close of the battle about 1 p.m. of the 25th. It joined its division in front of the Missionary Ridge. It took part of the storming of the ridge, reaching the summit about this position. It built temporary breastworks on the crest and bivouacked. On the 26th, the regiment continued with its brigade in the pursuit, reaching Ringgold the afternoon of the 27th, and on the 29th returned to Chattanooga. Casualties killed were 7 men, wounded 1 officer, and 29 men, for a total of 37. Next, we have Carlin's Brigade, Johnson's Division, Palmer's Corps, Brigadier General William P. Carlin, November 25th, 1863. Looks like 1 division from Illinois, 3 from Indiana, 3 from Ohio, 1 from Wisconsin. This brigade, with the exception of the 10th Wisconsin, marched on the afternoon of the 24th from Chattanooga and reinforced Hooker in the Battle of Lookout Mountain, leaving Hooker's column as it descended the mountain November 25th. It joined its division, becoming the right of General Thomas's assaulting lines, and was ordered by General Johnson to prepare to attack the enemy on Missionary Ridge. Moving forward in 2 lines with the general advance, it took the rifle pits near the foot of the ridge and charged for the summit. The right of the brigade was at the first repulsed, but a rifle pit halfway up, being carried by the 42nd Indiana, the 104th Illinois, and the 88th Indiana, forming the left of the brigade, the whole line advanced to the summit. The 2nd Ohio moved 300 yards to the right and captured a considerable part of the 38th Alabama with its colors. Well, that was the end of the first episode on Long Crest Road. As you can see, we are overlooking Chattanooga. You can see it in the background, and we're on top of Missionary Ridge. And so we've got several more Crest Road episodes to come, so stay tuned for more.